Hello everybody and welcome to this edition of People Talk Wrestling. Joining me today is the lovely Rhys. Introduce yourself.
Hi.
Today we will be discussing the Women's Royal Rumble match, which was quite an eventful night actually, as I stayed up to watch it all, and you watched it recently, didn't you?
Well, I've been catching up on the first ever history-making Women's Royal Rumble.
In my opinion, it did make history.
Well, of course it did. It was the first ever.
And WWE, for them, that's good on them, because they're going to get a big boost in popularity rating, aren't they?
I really feel like the first Women's Royal Rumble has actually accentuated how much they are now diversifying and really taking down the lack of sexism in sports industry.
Yeah, I mean, from let's say when I used to watch wrestling back in 2010 to maybe 7 as well, all the women were scantily dressed, and it was quite sexist. Apart from the men who were dressed to look all masculine, but the women were more dressed just for, I don't know, to say the least, eye candy for the men. What do you think about this big change now?
I think the evolution really led towards this, and the women's revolution is what's changed the wrestling industry into what it is today. And really, when you look back at the older generation of divas, then you can see the difference between scantily clad women and women now who we have competing in bodybuilding competitions such as the Arnold Classic.
Oh yeah. And as you said then, the evolution, which is initiated by one of the managers of WWE's The Business, and she, I guess, is a pretty big activist for women, all around the world to get in the sport to business, not to be eye candy, but to be professional wrestlers.
For Stephanie, being the daughter of the manager of the company and being general manager of Raw overall is quite an achievement, so for her to have been able to initiate this in its entirety is just astounding.
I know, good on her. I mean, again, in my opinion, I believe it's boosted the ratings. It's got female watchers all around the world, and now they will be probably, as I was inspired when I was young with all the male wrestlers, and I want to be a wrestler, but that's not going to happen. But now even women watching, they might inspire to become the wrestlers they want to be, so they know they won't be eye candy, they'll be actual performers and wrestlers. Now, what we're discussing today is the Women's Royal Rumble match, which was the first ever. So, the Royal Rumble match, we know what it is. Over how many years? 30 odd? It's all been male, hasn't it?
It's all been male, and that's obviously become more dominant throughout the years of how unfair it is for women to not even have the chance to main event a pay-per-view.
I know, pay-per-views are a big thing in the wrestling industry. It's what everyone watches. But to have the first ever Women's Royal Rumble match was a big success.
So I have the first ever Women's Royal Rumble match, and then for that to also be the main event of a pay-per-view is history.
It's a big thing, and I was there to watch it. It was really good. Now let's discuss entry number 1 and 2. We had Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. Those two, they're probably two of the biggest female superstars right now on the roster. What do you think of that? Two of the biggest superstars going first.
Necessarily, if you look at it organisationally, when you've got 30 women inside one ring, then you have to make logistical changes, and for them to put two superstars that are already quite well known first is a good starting point. It connects with the crowd and it makes them realise who they are.
Also probably gets them quite excited because they're both big stars, one from Raw, one from SmackDown as well. So
and they've already had quite a legendary feud beforehand.
Oh yeah, of course. Let's have a look. The other entrance, let's talk about the one I was most probably excited for, and I believed she would have came a bit later, but entry number 5, which was Lita, who is quite controversial in the wrestling business. Return, and her gear, what was so, you've seen her gear, haven't you?
Fans found with Lita's gear that the hashtag Time's Up was actually a very good way for her to advocate her voice, non-verbally, to the survivors of sexual harassment, of people like Larry Nassar, who was involved in the sports entertainment industry and ended up assaulting millions of...
Exactly. Yeah, it's right.
Cut hundreds.
The thing with that is that's giving... Lita used to be quite a big sex icon in the wrestling industry. She was very...
I think every woman was a sex icon in the wrestling industry.
Everyone. There was a few here and then, like Jacqueline, she wasn't really...
If you represent people like Miss Elizabeth and Jacqueline, then yes, that's more understandable that they weren't
Lita was
icons. Lita was one of the biggest names in the wrestling industry, and because of that, along came the sexualizing.
Now, to see Lita wearing that makes me like very happy because I believe that was her own choice to make that, not the business's. That was her own choice. She had the freedom of what she wanted to wear, and she still works with the industry now. She does the like the pre-shows before the actual main show. So to see her dressed in that is really like makes me really happy. But this now leads me on to other things. We had other women like Molly Holly, who's not very sexualised, but the one I'm thinking of is Michelle McCool and Kelly Kelly. You know, all the, not all old women, but like the early 2000s.
The Divas evolution.
The Divas, which again, in my opinion, is quite, not an offensive term.
More sexualised, but a lot more PG, unfortunately.
I wouldn't say PG for Divas.
If you look at people like Michelle McCool, it was never necessarily anything rude or something that couldn't be classed as non-PG, but sexualising them in the way they dress was still a pretty big issue.
Yeah. Seeing like old divas who were scantily dressed in the past, like, and now seeing them now, it makes me think, because even they were wearing the gear that they used to wear, and I always thought how, like, now I think about it, the way they dressed was quite shocking in a way because it showed a lot of skin.
It showed It showed a lot of cleavage, and the most skin-bearing gears were what men found the most attractive, which was, at that point, the biggest fan base that they had. And, you know, they have to appeal to our fan base, but to do so in such a disrespectful way, looking in hindsight, it's just not fair, and it's not correct business for that to happen.
Now, from probably, let's say, from 2000 to 2017, over the 17 years, the 25 years of Raw, let's say that, because that was only recently, would you say that let's say, from when the Divas started, they are now the women's division, do you think that was a good call?
So over the past 25 years, from Raw 25 until way back in 1982, the women's division has evolved incredibly, and it's only gone upwards from here.
That's a good point, that. Now, straying from aside from the Royal Rumble, we had the winner of the Women's Royal Rumble, who came out at number 25, was the new superstar Asuka.
The undefeated female superstar Asuka. May I continue?
She is a very talented wrestler, and in my opinion, the Women's Royal Rumble, to me, has opened my eyes on how the women are better than some of the wrestlers today, male superstars. Asuka is brilliant.
See, now the thing is, Asuka is a mixture of a showboater, powerhouse, and she is an all-round competitor who is flawless in ring.
She does it well.
WWE have made the choice to keep her undefeated for over 2.5 years, and that is not a decision you can make lightly. If you look at Undertaker's winning streak at WrestleManias, he got to 21 WrestleManias before being beat.
And that's
that is 21 years worth of undefeated WrestleMania matches. Now Asuka has the same ground. She has 2.5 years behind her of undefeated excellence in the WWE. She is the longest reigning women's champion for NXT and is just overall a chaperone for that division. She,
in my opinion, is like the Undertaker of NXT, and now she's moved on to the Raw and SmackDown, the main show. I hope they'll continue it, but not for too long. But apart from that, that'll be for another podcast. We were discussing the winner of it. Are you happy she won? And are you surprised she won as well?
I'm not surprised she won, because I wouldn't expect Asuka to have lost so early on in the year. If they were going to have a 2.5 year streak broken so quickly, then why even do it?
Good point.
But to be honest, Asuka should have won the Rumble. I completely agree with that. But she should have come out a lot earlier than 25.
25?
She has a lot of potential, and I feel like coming out at 25 didn't display much of it at all.
I mean, for me, I didn't expect her to win, because in my opinion, I don't think undefeated, it only counts as being pinned or submitted. If she was thrown over the top rope, that doesn't count as being undefeated. Or defeated, I should say. But I expected, as we all knew, that Ronda Rousey was making some sort of an appearance. I know you're not a fan of her. I'm not too sure yet, because I've not made my mind up, really. I've seen her. So.
See, now you've seen Ronda Rousey in MMA, and we all saw how her career went. It went up and then down the pan.
The end of the 2018 Royal Rumble, Asuka won, and we know that Ronda Rousey, right at the end of the show, came out, which to everyone's surprise was not...
To no one's surprise.
Yeah, to no one's surprise. I mean, people were excited to see it. Yeah, I was quite excited. Someone new, and I like seeing new people in the business.
Surprise is different to excitement, and at this point, Ronda Rousey doesn't deserve fans behind her back just yet. She's done nothing. See, now, the reason that Ronda Rousey seemed to agitate me in the Royal Rumble was because she stole Asuka's limelight. Asuka has
Sorry to interrupt you, but not just Asuka. In my opinion, the whole women's roster, the whole Rumble, she stole that from them. Do you know what?
Disrespected them. Having an MMA fighter come out at a wrestling women's Royal Rumble, the first in history.
She was no part of it, was she? She just came out.
Now, she can say that she pays homage to Roddy Piper, but that's completely different than being a participant and actually respecting the women's division.
Now, we've seen that... Well, have you seen Twitter recently? Have you seen Nia Jax's Twitter? She called out Ronda Rousey, saying how we should forget about the other competitors. Like not Ronda Rousey, Nia Jax said that Ronda Rousey basically also stole the spotlight, which in my opinion is true. Because if she appeared in the Rumble, I would have had a bit more respect for her. But she came out and said nothing, and everyone was excited for that. Now, that's what everyone's talking about. No one's talking about the first ever female Royal Rumble. So, the match itself wasn't a failure. People seemed to not see the importance of it.
People were deviated because they saw a famous person walk out.
Exactly.
That is the issue at hand. Ronda Rousey could have made a debut at Raw. She could have made a debut in NXT. No one gives a crap. But she chose to do it at the Royal Rumble and steal the limelight of 30 women that have put their hearts and souls on the line for that business for however many long years.
And they performed for that match, some of them performing almost up to half an hour in the one ring, so they must have been exhausted, and all she did was walk out, as you said. Now, if she debuted on Raw the next night...
That would have been a different story.
I would have been, okay, that's a bit respectable. If she maybe debuted before the Rumble match started, do you think, would that make a difference?
No. If she debuted before the Royal Rumble, then the hype is that she would be in the Royal Rumble.
Oh yeah, that's a good point, I never thought of that. So, overall, talk over what overall rating would you give the Women's Royal Rumble out of 5 stars?
I would give it a solid 4.5.
I would give it a 4 as well, not a half, a 4. Overall, it's a good watch and it's a good lesson for everyone, and hopefully we'll continue this podcast series and talk about other subjects like this. So, thank you for having yourself on this show.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you in the next edition of People Talk Wrestling. Bye-bye.